They were born 17 minutes apart on a rainy October night in 1994. The first cry belonged to Aisha. The second, softer and slightly delayed, belonged to Aliza. Even the nurses remarked how strange it was. Two identical girls, same tiny nose, same dark almond eyes, same faint birthmark shaped like a half moon on the left collarbone. Yet from the very first day, something intangible already separated them. Aisha was the one who smiled at strangers. Aliza was the one who watched. Their mother used to joke that God had given one heart to share between two bodies. Over the years, it became clear which half had received most of that heart.
Saturday, 12th September 2025, Lahore, Gulberg. The ivory lahanga weighed almost 15 kilos. Aisha stood motionless in front of the three-way mirror while four women fussed around her, pinning, adjusting, steaming, complimenting. "You look like an apsara," the head designer whispered reverently. Aisha tried to smile. The reflection smiled back perfectly. In the corner of the room, Aliza sat on a velvet stool, legs crossed, phone in hand, scrolling without really looking. Their eyes met in the mirror for perhaps 3 seconds. Nothing was said. Nothing needed to be said. Later that evening, when the house finally quieted, Aliza slipped into Aisha's room. The lahanga hung like a sleeping ghost on the mannequin. "You still haven't told him you want to postpone," Aliza said without preamble. Aisha was sitting cross-legged on the bed, mindy dark hands resting on white cotton pajamas. "I tried, twice." Her voice was barely audible. "He said, if we delay again, people will talk. His mother is already stressed about the dates, and Baba—" She didn't finish the sentence. They both knew. Their father's heart condition had worsened dramatically after the first postponement. The doctors had been very clear. Another major emotional shock could be dangerous. Aliza walked to the window, looked at the garden lights. "He doesn't love you, Aisha." The words landed like stones in still water. Aisha closed her eyes. "I know." "Then why?" "Because someone has to marry him." Aisha's voice cracked on the last word. "And it's already decided. The families have signed. The cards are printed. The venue is booked for 600 people. The bridal suite is already decorated." Aliza turned slowly. "And you're going to spend the rest of your life being polite to a man who looks at you like your mildly interesting piece of furniture?" Aisha's shoulders began to shake. Aliza watched her cry for almost 40 seconds before she spoke again, very quietly. "What if it wasn't you?" Aisha looked up, confused, mascara already ruined. "What?" "What if on the wedding day it wasn't you in the dress?" The room became so silent they could hear the ceiling fan turning. For the next 11 days, the sisters barely spoke about anything else. During the day, they played their roles perfectly. Aisha, the blushing, obedient bride-to-be. Aliza, the supportive, slightly sarcastic elder sister by 17 minutes. At night, they met in Aisha's room after everyone slept. They made lists. They argued. They cried. They made more lists. The basic mechanics were brutally simple. Aliza would take Aisha's place during the Rukhsati. She would leave with the groom, Xavier, and his family. The real Aisha would disappear for at least 3 months. After that, they would decide what came next. The devil was in the terrifying details. Could Aliza really fool Xavier? They had met only 5 times, all heavily chaperoned. Could she fool his mother? His mother had already spent 4 afternoons getting to know Aisha. Could she fool the close cousins who would be at the wedding? And most importantly, could she live with him, sleep in the same bed, share the same bathroom, answer to the name Aisha for weeks, maybe months. Eliza asked the last question herself on the night before the Mindy. Aisha looked at her with red-rimmed eyes. "You don't have to do the nights. We'll figure something out. Maybe separate rooms at first. Say I'm traditional or shy." Eliza gave a short, bitter laugh. Traditional shy brides don't last in Xavier's family. You know how his mother talks. Modern couple, modern house, no old-fashioned nonsense. She paused. Then, very softly, "I can do the nights." Aisha stared at her. Eliza shrugged, looking away. "I've done worse things for less important reasons." Neither of them spoke after that. The wedding was massive, obscenely beautiful, mercilessly loud. 640 guests, 7 costume changes for the bride, 4 different venues in one day. At 11:47 p.m., when the ruksati was finally announced, both sisters were already positioned. Aisha, the real Aisha, was hidden in the small prayer room at the back of the hall, wearing a simple black abaya, dupatta covering her face. Eliza, wearing the final red, heavily embroidered lehenga, full bridal jewelry, the exact same makeup, stood surrounded by crying cousins and aunts. The only person who knew was their mother. She had guessed 3 days earlier. She hadn't said a word of protest. She had simply taken both daughters' hands one night and whispered, "Whatever happens, don't ever hate each other." Then she had kissed them both on the forehead and walked away. Now she stood at the door of the prayer room guarding it. When the groom's sisters came to take the bride to the car, Eliza stepped forward. She kept her head lowered exactly the way Aisha always did. She let them cry on her shoulder. She let them hug her. She even let Xavier's mother kiss her forehead and whisper, "Finally, my daughter." Not once did anyone look twice. Not once. Xavier's family home was not a house. It was a small estate. The bridal suite occupied the entire top floor of the new wing. When the door closed behind them, Eliza felt the air change. Xavier loosened his Shervani collar. He looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time without 30 people watching. "You must be exhausted," he said. Eliza nodded once. He smiled, the same polite, handsome, empty smile he always gave. "I won't bother you tonight. We can take it slow." Relief flooded her so violently she almost swayed. She managed to whisper, "Thank you." He disappeared into the attached study to change. Eliza locked herself in the bathroom, turned on the shower full blast, and stood under the water with all her clothes on until she stopped shaking. When she finally came out in a bathrobe, Xavier was already asleep on the couch. She stared at him for a very long time. Then she took the bed. She didn't sleep. For the first 2 weeks, Eliza moved through the house like a ghost wearing Aisha's skin. She memorized how Aisha took her tea, 2 sugars, little milk, which hand she used to pass plates, right, how she laughed at her father-in-law's jokes, small, head slightly tilted, the exact way she said "gee" to her mother-in-law, soft, respectful, never sarcastic. She was good, terrifyingly good, but Xavier was observant. On day 9, he asked during breakfast, "You've changed your perfume." Aisha's heart slammed against her ribs. She forced a small laugh. "I wanted something new, for us." He studied her for a second longer than usual. Then he smiled. "I like it." On day 14, he found her reading a book in the library, a collection of Faiz Ahmed Faiz poetry. "You never read Urdu poetry before," he remarked casually. Eliza closed the book slowly. "I wanted to understand you better." He looked surprised, then pleased.
That night he tried to kiss her. She let him for exactly 4 seconds. Then she turned her face away. "I'm still adjusting." He backed off immediately, but something in his eyes changed. He had started to want her, not Aisha, her. Aisha was hiding in Murray, a small rented cottage. New number, new name. She cried almost every night. She also started painting again, something she had stopped doing after engagement. Eliza sent her money through a friend, never direct messages, never calls, only coded WhatsApp through a third number. Everything under control. Stay safe. One night in early November, Eliza sent something different. He asked me to redo our wedding photos, professional shoot, next week. Aisha stared at the message for 17 minutes. Then she typed back, "Don't let him touch you more than necessary." Eliza didn't reply. She couldn't, because the truth was much worse. She had already let him touch her, more than necessary, and she hadn't hated it. It happened on a cold January morning. Xavier came home early. He found Eliza in the study, reading old letters Aisha had written to him during their engagement, letters full of shy hope, full of gentle love. Eliza was crying, not acting, really crying. Xavier stood in the doorway for a long time. Then he spoke very softly. "You're not Aisha." Eliza froze. She didn't deny it. She simply closed the letter and looked at him. "How long have you known?" "Since the 3rd week," he leaned against the doorframe. "But I wasn't sure until now." Silence stretched between them, painful, electric. "Why didn't you say anything?" Eliza whispered. "Because," he laughed once bitterly, "because I started falling for the woman who was actually here." He stepped closer. "I know you're not her. I know you've been lying every day, and I still want you to stay." Eliza stood up slowly. Her voice trembled. "She's my sister. She was dying inside this marriage. I did it to save her." Xavier nodded. "I know. I'm not a good man, Eliza. I never was. But I'm not stupid either. I see who you are, and I want the woman who reads Fies at 2 a.m. and cries over letters she didn't write." He reached out. Eliza stepped back. "I can't." "Why?" "Because she still loves you." Eliza's voice broke. "Even after everything, she still loves you." Xavier closed his eyes. When he opened them again, they were wet. "Then tell her I'm sorry. Tell her I was never worthy of either of you." Aisha returned in April. Quiet divorce. No scandal. The families agreed to say it was mutual and private reasons. Xavier left for Dubai 2 weeks later. He never married again. Eliza disappeared for almost a year. When she came back, she had cut her hair short. She opened a small publishing house, specializing in poetry. She never spoke about that year. Aisha eventually married someone else, a kind, slightly awkward doctor who brought her tea every evening without being asked. They have a daughter now. They named her Noor. Sometimes late at night when everyone is asleep, Aisha takes out the old engagement letters. She reads them. She cries. Then she smiles. Because somewhere in this cruel, beautiful, impossible story, both sisters were finally free. And somewhere, Xavier still keeps one photograph from that reshoot. The one where Eliza is laughing, really laughing, looking directly at the camera. He never shows it to anyone, but he never throws it away either.